Uprooted Theatrical Studios presents.
It's 10 Tips Tuesday.
Hey friends, happy Tuesday. It's time again for another 10 Tips Tuesday. And this week we are bringing back some familiar faces. We want to talk to you about some of the lessons and biggest takeaways that we got from our internships, and hopefully it'll help y'all. Enjoy. Hey friends, so I interned at MoxieArts NYC, which is a theater company based in New York City, and I learned so much from them. I loved my time there. So I think the first thing that I'm going to talk to you about is if you want to work on something, work in a certain area, work in a project, talk to your supervisors. I was a production intern with MoxieArts, but because I asked and volunteered and put myself out there, by the end of my time there, I helped build sets, helped with lights, I helped prop design, I was ASM on multiple shows, I assistant directed, I helped co-coordinate a growth and leadership event, helped MC that, and worked as a PA on a showcase and other stuff. But if I didn't talk to my supervisors, I never would have had any of that opportunity. And so my second impartment would be to be positive and come in ready to work. It's so easy to have like a negative attitude in every sense in everyday life, but if you can go into a room and be that positive person, have that optimistic outlook, and always be looking for ways to improve the environment, then you're gonna be successful, at least in just being happy. I mean, there were plenty of times where things went wrong or things weren't exactly as expected, but because me and those around me had a positive attitude, everything worked out, and it was so much fun all the time. So go in, be kind, be positive, and be hardworking. I hope that these lessons were helpful.
Hi, my name is Megan Huggins, and today I am talking about the top 2 things I learned from my internship. So last summer, I had the incredible privilege to work with the Nashville Children's Theater as a summer camp intern. This meant that I was helping run before and after care, assisting in carpool and making sure that it ran smoothly in the afternoons. I was monitoring lunchtime, and most significantly, I was in a classroom every week with a different teaching artist serving as assistant and sometimes facilitating classes as well. I loved working at NCT. It is a wonderful place to work that values inclusivity and compassion. They strive to empower their students to not only feel safe and comfortable with them, but also to learn how to share their voices and take their own space. While at NCT, the first thing that I learned, and probably the most important and remarkable, was I learned how to create a safe and supportive work environment. I have never felt as supported at a job as I did at the Nashville Children's Theater. As an intern, we met once a week to talk through any challenges that we were having in our classrooms. Halfway through the summer, we had a mid-summer check-in where we really just assessed our goals and how we were feeling, and if we needed to adjust our goals, and really get a lot of mostly positive feedback talking about things we were doing well as feedback assessing things that we might need to work on to be more successful. NCT really, really cared about making sure that we felt safe and that we felt supported. I always felt comfortable going to my bosses and asking for help with negotiating a problem with a kid. I know that the teaching artists would often go to bounce ideas off each other or off of our bosses or off of the interns. And that kind of collaborative, supportive community facilitates really, really meaningful education and really meaningful experience, both for us as interns, for the teaching artists, and for the kids. It was incredible. The second thing I learned at NCT would not be possible without the first thing that I learned about building a supportive community. The second thing is learning how to advocate for yourself, especially in internships. An internship at its core is the intern providing a service to a company, and in exchange they are gaining experience. Sometimes pay is involved and sometimes not, but that experience is critical for developing the intern as a professional. At NCT, we were encouraged to set goals for ourselves and were taught the language tools to communicate when we needed something from our teaching artists or from our bosses. They gave me the language to feel comfortable going to my teaching artist and saying, hey, I really want to lead this warm-up, or I want to teach this section of class, or I'd really like to stage this part of the play that we're working on. Or going to one of my bosses and saying, hey, I really don't feel comfortable doing this part of camp. Can you help me come up with skills to become more comfortable? Or can you pass it off to somebody else? I learned the skills and the tools and the language to communicate when I needed something to improve my experience, which in turn made me a more productive intern. NCT is one of the most amazing theaters I have ever worked with, and they taught me how to create a community that supports each other and how to advocate for myself in the workplace, and I am so grateful for those opportunities.
Hey, I'm Jake Wallace, and these are the top things I learned from my internship. Number 1, don't be afraid to ask questions and talk to everybody. You're there to learn, and they're there to teach you. Be sure to ask them any questions you have about the industry, why they're doing what they're doing, and just try to learn as much as possible. Number 2, be sure to keep in touch with your internship, whether it be the intern coordinator, your bosses, or other interns. You never know when they're going to help you or when they might have a job that they need you for. Be sure to send them after your internship like a thank you card or just a continuous message to stay in their minds. They'll remember you and they'll think of you whenever they need you.
Hey everyone, my name is Astrid Rotenberry and I interned with Telsey & Company in the fall of 2018, and today I'm going to give you the top 2 things that I learned at my internship. So the most important thing I learned, which might sound a little cliche, is how important it is to be yourself. And you know, everyone tells you just be yourself. No matter what you're doing, when you're meeting new people, when you're interviewing for a job, when you're auditioning, and you hear it all the time and you think, like, just be myself, but also I need to be professional. And that's true. There is a very delicate balance that you need to make sure you are hitting. But when you're interviewing and when you're auditioning, everyone just wants to see you be who you are. People want to work with personable, like-minded people. And if you showcase, one, that you are able to be yourself in a sort of stressful environment, and 2, that you are fun to be around, people are going to want to be around you. Part of the reason why I wanted to intern in casting was because as an actor, I wanted to see what it was like on the other side of the table and, you know, what the casting process was really like and what set one audition apart from another. And what I saw time after time was that the auditions that were most memorable were the ones in which the actors really brought their personalities to the performance, especially when it was roles like, you know, just guest star spots that were maybe for like a doctor or a dentist, you know, roles like that that you might think, are kind of cut and dry. When you bring yourself to those performances, it really sets you apart. It makes your performance unique. And that was really cool to see, because sometimes you're tempted to think like, oh, someone did it better than me. But it's not about who does the scene better. It's about who has the most interesting performance. And so being yourself is kind of the best way to do that. And, obviously you're going to do your character work, and, everyone works differently. But bringing your personality into the room is really going to set you apart from everyone else who's auditioning. And also when you're interning, being yourself is going to set you apart from your other interns, and hopefully it will help to personalize your intern experience. I know for me, I felt like my experience at Telsey was really personalized because I was myself, and my fellow interns, everyone was very true to themselves there. Everyone's personalities were very loud, very, everyone had a very specific personality that shone through, and because of that, I think we all kind of fell into facets of the company that really worked for our strong suits, and we were able to bring kind of our special take to the table because we were ourselves, and we fell into the parts of the company that we fit best into. And therefore, I felt like all of our experiences, or at least my experience, I can only speak for myself, was very personalized, and I was really lucky for that. And then the second thing that I learned at my internship is how important it is to connect with your fellow interns. And obviously the goal of interning somewhere is networking at the end of the day. But you hear networking so much, and I kind of always associated it with networking with people who are above you, networking with the people who, you're hoping will hire you, you're hoping will eventually cast you, whatever. But obviously that's very important, and that is one of the goals. But it's also equally important to network or form good relationships with your fellow interns, because these are the people who you're going to be moving forward with in the industry at the same time. And you're also going to be spending every day for however many months working with these people, and interns really rely on each other. Like, you can't get the job done unless your team is working together, and there's good communication and good relationships between you. And I felt like my intern group was really close, and I was so thankful for that. And some of my best friends now are people who I met at Telsey, and I truly can't even put into words how thankful I am for them. But like I said, these are the people who you're going to be working with. You're going to be entering the field at the same level and position that they are, probably. And so it's important to have good relationships with them, especially because hopefully if you're friends, you can send each other, job postings that you found, or if you've heard about a job opening, you can spread the word. You can tell others what your, interview experience has been like. It's mutually beneficial for everyone, hopefully. And also, these are the people who, like if you're interning in a different state than when you're going to school, like I did, these are the people who are going to be your friends. When I moved to New York, like the only people I knew were my intern friends. And that's really all I needed. Like, I had a few friends from school there. And then I had this big group of friends who I had shared this really awesome, similar experience with. And we had, so much to talk about, so much to catch up on. But it was just amazing because there wasn't really a period of time in which I felt like I had to adjust. I felt like I already had a social circle in New York, and it made moving so much less scary. And obviously not everyone is going to move to the city that they are interning in. But for me, that was part of why I wanted to intern in New York, was because I did want to live there eventually, and I wanted to go ahead and kind of, you know, have some sort of foundation there already. But yeah, I think that there's you can only benefit from having a good relationship with your fellow interns. And it will help you personally, it will help you in a business sense, and it's also just going to help you in your day-to-day during your internship. So I hope that these lessons have been helpful. These lessons that I learned have been helpful for you all. Like I said last week, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. But I hope you're all staying safe and healthy, and good luck.
Hey guys, so I've learned a lot of things throughout my internships, some good, some bad, and it's just the experience of interning and kind of learning from your mistakes and also growing as a person in the industry that you're going into. So I'm gonna share with you guys the two biggest things I've learned from my internships, and hopefully those are helpful to you and you can either take advice from that or kind of learn from my mistakes. So one of my biggest takeaways from my internships is that it's awesome to always be asking questions. And more often than not, your companies that you're interning for want you to ask questions, whether it just be general industry questions of you trying to learn more, or if you are working on a project and you don't know how to do something, it's always better to ask a question than to just kind of assume and end up doing it wrong and then having to redo it. And so my supervisors always told me, like, hey, if you have a question, like, ask. And it was a really great way for me to learn, and I picked up a lot of experience and tips from asking questions. And I also always found it helpful to have a notebook with me so I could just write stuff down so I didn't have to keep asking the same question. So that's one of my big takeaways. And you're also going to learn so much by watching people do it too. So if you can have someone like show you how to do it while asking the question, like, that's great too. And then my second takeaway is something that I kind of figured out through trial and error, but it's totally okay to not fall in love with the internship you're in. That's not to say don't put your best foot forward and do hard work and all of that, but just because you're interning with the company doesn't mean that you 100% have to fall in love with whatever you're doing. I loved my internship with Take 3 Talent, and I would absolutely do it again, but through that I discovered that talent, like, is not necessarily what I want to do, and I definitely would prefer to do casting, and I figured that out through working with Bender. And so I think if you're not just absolutely over the moon to go into work every day, that's okay, but it's also important to always put your best foot forward, always do your best work, because you want to keep those relationships, because this industry is really small and you never want to burn a bridge. So you always want to leave a good impression, and just you always want to make sure that if someone were to bring you up in conversation, they would have nothing but good things to say about you. So yeah, those are my two biggest takeaways. I hope that you guys find those helpful, and I hope that you also learn some really amazing things from your internships.